excited to introduce Kristen Dean. 15 years in the insurance industry, she has assisted hundreds of people to find coverage they need, prices they are comfortable with, and top-notch service all over Massachusetts and Connecticut. And I can attest to all the things, personal and business. She does an amazing job, and I think sometimes it's not always about price. You have to take into consideration service, and she's just, as she says, she's passionate about networking and building meaningful relationships that have really helped her business soar over the last 5 years. Kristen is here to share her tips on how to get there with the About the Author method. Kristen, come on up.
Thank you, Jen. It's funny because for the past few days I was working on my presentation and I was just reading through, and yesterday I decided I'm going to record myself doing it. It was awful. It was just straight up terrible. So I called my husband in a panic and I said, you have to come up with a way that I can get out of doing this tomorrow. Please help me come up with something that I can say to get out of it. And he's like, I'm not gonna do that. What was the matter with it? I said, I was doing some really weird things with my face. I was doing strange things with my hands. And he said, it sounds like you were forcing it. And it sounds like you weren't being yourself. My 9-year-old then chimes in and he says, you were also talking really fast. You need to slow down. So I took both pieces of advice, trashed the entire thing, and here we are today. So just be yourself. Ironically, it's the reason that I'm talking to you today about this new idea I have called About the Author. It's the first time I'm really presenting it, so I'd love for you afterwards to give me your feedback about what you thought. It's, for me, something that's helped me really grow my business over the past couple of years. And for the couple of people that have already seen it and tried it, it worked really well for them too. So, first things first, I have a new logo. So I want to show you, see what you think. About the Author in action.
Love it. Nice.
Thank you. So what really is About the Author? I've combined two things that I love to come up with this, and that's reading and networking. I've been reading for as long as I can remember, and I've always read a book the same way. I absolutely love the copyright section. So I open a book, I say, when was this book written and where was it published? When I was in 3rd grade, I thought it was fascinating that the book I happened to be reading was published in New York City. It seemed like such a big place, it was so far away. How could it possibly have gotten to me, to my school, to my library? That's where the fascination started. My kids also read books the same way. And I love hearing from the other room, Mom, this book is as old as you are. They wrote it in 1984. And I'm like, I'll take good care of it. It's an antique. Make sure you take really good care of that one. The next thing I love reading is the dedication. To me, if an author takes the time to dedicate their book to somebody, they're really special to them. Is it in memory of somebody? Did they help write it? How did this person contribute to their life that they're so important that the book is dedicated to them? Then I get to the About the Author section. Lisa Scottoline is one of my favorite authors, so I'm going to read to you her About the Author section. Lisa Scottoline is a New York Times best-selling and award-winning author of 31 novels. She has 30 million copies of her books in print in the US alone and has been published in 35 countries. Her thrillers have been optioned for television and film. She also writes a weekly column with her daughter Francesca for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Those stories have been adapted into a series of best-selling memoirs, the first of which is entitled, Why My Third Husband Will Be a Dog. Lisa lives on a Pennsylvania farm with an array of disobedient pets. After I read Lisa's About the Author, I think she sounds like a pretty cool person. I think she sounds like somebody that I could be friends with. And if she was here today, somebody that I would want to go talk to. Would I want to talk to Lisa about the process of getting books to film. Pretty cool, but don't really know much about it. That's not the intriguing part. How about the fact that she writes a column for the Philadelphia newspaper? Again, I'm sure she'd have a lot to say, but to me, not something that I want to talk about. Disobedient pets, on the other hand, is something that I know a lot about because I have one. This is Hank. He looks really sweet here, but he's not. It's all an act. It's part of his plan, and his middle name is Mischief. But that's something that I feel like I could talk to Lisa about, and it wouldn't feel forced. It'd be comfortable. I want to see what kind of disobedient pet she has. I mean, are we talking like a horse? Are we also talking about a golden doodle? And that's the point of About the Author, is figuring out things about someone's personal and professional life that you want to know more about. And it doesn't have to be, even though you're in a networking group that focuses on people's professions, it doesn't have to be about that. You want to leave the conversation with someone wanting to come back and get more from you, more advice, more conversation, just more. Part 2 of About the Author is taking action. So step 1 on its own is wonderful. But step 2 is really where you'll feel empowered, because you're taking what you learned about someone and introducing them to somebody else. Hearing someone else talk about you feels really good, because oftentimes we're very critical of ourselves, right? But if someone else is doing all of that talking and bragging for you, they often bring up things that you may have overlooked because they thought it was really neat. They were fascinated by it. It's also a really good way to break the ice. If you're in a situation where you're feeling awkward and uncomfortable, it's kind of helps, no, okay, I'm coming in with a tool because I've already learned a couple things about someone. I'm going to summarize it in my head, come up with their story, and then make the introduction. That's what I wasn't doing for years. I would go to a networking group, I would meet one person, I would talk to maybe 2 people, and then I would leave. When I started intentionally doing part 2, that's when I saw my business start to soar. I started getting more meaningful connections, and people remembered me because what I said about them, it brought up such strong feelings, right? That helps us remember things, that it was, it was really dramatic what a difference it was. And I think that if you come into a group and you know what your goal is, to meet someone, find out some new things about them, but purposely before you leave, introduce them to somebody else, you're going to end up feeling more empowered too. It also works if you're talking with someone that you already know. Jen mentioned that we did this exercise in the coffee chat. We broke into pairs, and then we spent 10 minutes talking to our partner. And then we had to present our partner to the group, keeping this About the Author theory in mind. Kara Holland and I were partners. She's part of the group. I'm sure you all know her. We've known each other for years, actually. So when we partnered up, we were like, oh, this is, kind of know everything about you. Like, our kids grew up together. We're at all the same school functions. We're at basketball together. But we even learned things about each other. And when she was presenting me, I'm sitting there with tears in my eyes, and I'm like, this is my activity. Why am I about to cry? But I left there feeling so confident, and I think the feedback from people that were there, they felt the same way. So there's actually some things on your table already, just a few questions that you can lead with when you're talking to somebody. Ways that you can dig deeper into kind of what makes them tick, right? Get into the guts of learning about somebody. Carrie's gonna help me pass out something else. You want to just drop them out? Yeah. If you want to just take one of these and pass it around. We're passing around another About the Author section. You want to take one and pass it? And as you're reading it, keep in mind all of the things that we were just talking about. This author, as you're reading, I'll tell you, this section came from the back of my 10-year-old's book, which was titled The Smartest Kid in the Universe. And the book is geared towards kids in grades 3 through 5. Did everybody have a chance to look through it? Does anybody see something or take away something that is a little bit different from the Lisa Scott line about the author? It's not a huge difference, but knowing that it was written in the back of a children's book, does anything stand out?
Used to love camping.
So that's one of the key takeaways that I had too, was this about the author is specifically geared towards the age group, right? That's fun. You talk about jelly beans, the fact that he used to love camping, especially if there are marshmallows. If you are doing it about the author on someone, keep the audience in mind. So you may present somebody to this group differently than if you were in a different setting, and you have to kind of, when they say like know your audience, so you might change it a little bit like he did. So I just thought that was really neat and a good comparison to just something else to think about to make that connection more meaningful. Jen mentioned that Kelly the other day did my Women in Business Spotlight interview. And after we were done talking, she sent me the summary. And I was like, you just about the authored me. And we were laughing because you don't realize how many ways you are using it. I know in this group years ago, anytime it was time to do our elevator speeches, right? Our 30-second intros, I would sit there the entire time, sweating, my mouth would go dry, I would feel like I was getting hives. And essentially, I wasn't even concentrating on what anybody else was saying because I was so worried about what I was going to talk about. Since I've been practicing about the author, I found ways to tell a story when I'm up there. And I think you can all do the same thing. Basically, especially in this tight-knit group, we all know what everybody does, right? We all know everybody's job title and where they're coming from. But give us the guts. If you have 30 seconds, tell us what successes you had that week, or why, are you now in holistic health because you were on your own health journey and found that there was some type of, lacking area, so you start studying it, or maybe you overcame something you were struggling with. That's the kind of stuff that is going to make people choose you and want to work with you over someone else in the same field. When Michaela got here, we were talking a little bit about, she's like, what are you, presenting on? And I told her, I said, I really want people to get into talking about their guts. And she shared something on social media recently that was about her journey from Greece, learning English. Now she's making these custom, essentially, plans to help kids learn. And she said, I'm a perfect example for these families because I did it. That is fascinating. It took her 30 seconds to tell me that. I want to know more. I want to talk to her more about that, right? So I think if you think of it that way, then you're going to feel a lot more comfortable. Hopefully it makes, you're wanting to come to events like this just a little bit easier. And that's really the key. Everyone's time is so valuable. We don't have a lot of it. But the fact that all of you can come to these, you want to obviously better yourself, better your business, and I think that's pretty awesome. So my message is live it, love it, and share it. Thank you.